40,000 years ago, two hunter-gatherers are standing outside a cave. One of them still has a full head of hair. The other one just pulled a fistful of his own hair out and has no idea why. No mirror, no doctor, no word for what's happening to his body. Just a slow, quiet panic. Here's the strange part. That exact biological glitch is still happening to half the men alive today. And scientists only just traced where it actually came from. One hormone that acts like a delayed timer, one migration out of Africa, and a piece of Egyptian tomb art nobody expected. So let's actually answer it. When did humans start going bald? Start with what's happening under the skin, because it explains everything else. Male pattern baldness, the receding hairline, the thinning crown, is driven by a hormone called DHT, a byproduct your body makes when it converts testosterone inside your hair follicles. In follicles that are genetically sensitive to it, DHT slowly shrinks the hair growth cycle over and over until the follicle is only producing thin, practically invisible fuzz instead of real hair. Do that specifically at the temples and crown while the sides and back stay untouched, and you get that instantly recognizable horseshoe pattern, the same one in basically every culture on Earth. And it's not bad luck. A study of over 200,000 men found this trait is roughly 62% genetic, with more than 600 spots in your DNA linked to it, including a strong cluster on the X chromosome, inherited from your mother's side. So yes, you can blame your mom's dad. Here's where it gets interesting. Researchers comparing populations worldwide noticed something odd. The genetic markers behind common baldness show up constantly in men of European descent, and far less in East Asian populations, even at the exact same age. When scientists lined that pattern up against known human migration routes, they found a match. Those specific baldness markers trace back to groups that migrated out of Africa into Europe and the Middle East roughly 40,000 years ago. Populations that never made that migration never picked up that version of the gene. If that theory holds, the most common form of baldness in men today has an actual origin point, a single evolutionary event, tens of thousands of years before anyone even had a word for bald. So did they? Here's the frustrating answer. We genuinely don't know. And the reason is darkly simple. Male pattern baldness usually doesn't show up until somewhere between 25 and 50. But early humans were dying young. Infection, injury, childbirth, predators, long before that window ever opened. Average life expectancy in the Paleolithic hovered in the 30s. That number is dragged down hard by brutal childhood mortality, meaning some adults absolutely did live into their 50s and 60s. So the genetic wiring for baldness was almost certainly already sitting there, fully loaded, tens of thousands of years before people started living long enough to actually show it. It's not that ancient humans didn't go bald, it's that most of them never lived long enough to find out. Which raises the obvious question. If baldness serves no purpose, why hasn't evolution just gotten rid of it? Two answers. First, the same genes linked to baldness are also tied to things like earlier puberty and bone density. So evolution may have been selecting for those benefits, with hair loss just riding along for free. Second, and this is the real trick, baldness usually shows up after a man's prime reproductive years are already over. Natural selection is only really powerful against traits that stop you from having kids. Once you've already passed your genes on, evolution has essentially clocked out. Baldness slides right through that gap. Now for the actual hard evidence. In 2019, an Egyptologist documented 122 bald men painted across private tombs spanning over 2,000 years of Egyptian history. Farmers, scribes, sculptors, shown completely normally, with zero stigma. Ancient Egyptians even had specific words for different balding patterns and built a designated baldness line into their mummification process. But, and here's the funny part, the same culture that publicly accepted baldness was privately obsessed with curing it. One Egyptian recipe involved onions, iron, honey, and alabaster, recited over with a magic spell. When that failed, they moved to rubbing lion fat, hippo fat, and snake fat straight onto the scalp. When that failed too, they tried a mixture involving actual greyhound leg and donkey hoof. None of it worked. In Greece, Hippocrates made a genuinely brilliant discovery almost by accident. He noticed that castrated men never went bald, nailing the hormone connection 2,000 years before science could explain why. And in Rome, Julius Caesar, tired of his own thinning hair, invented what historians consider the first documented comb-over in history. So, back to those two cavemen outside the cave. We'll never know if he understood what was happening to him, but we know this. The exact same hormone, the exact same genetic switch, the exact same pattern is still playing out on human scalps today, 40,000 years later. You're not going bald because something's wrong with you. You're going bald because of a migration your ancestors made tens of thousands of years ago. And honestly, that's a much better excuse than anything in your bathroom cabinet is going to give you.